Boyd McKenzie. I'm the concert manager for the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra. I handle all of the contracting of musicians for concerts and filing of contracts, as well as involved in a lot of outreach activities and performing. Of course, I'm a violinist in the orchestra. And I often have to, create stage plots, diagrams for the setup, and communicate with the various aspects of a concert, from the stage manager to every musician and the librarian and managing director, etc. And then play.
I'm Ivan Hughes, and I'm a filmmaker. I do a lot of documentary, a lot of corporate work, a lot of nonprofit work. And I've been filming, archiving a lot of the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra stuff for a bunch of years now. And so now that COVID's happened, I've been doing a lot of the recording of the concerts for virtual audiences.
Well, I'm a longtime music producer, musician, composer, and studio owner. So inevitably, I got into the engineering side of things. So, and my relationship with Boyd McKenzie goes back a long, long way. And that drew me into the MCO when Simon Stradford was, in fact, still the conductor. And then there was Roy Goodman and Manson, of course. Yeah, I've done a lot of archiving work for the orchestra over the years. And of course, when COVID hit, everything changed. And so now we are doing full-fledged productions of the concerts, which has necessitated a very different approach to doing everything. But there's been a real silver lining, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think it's opened up some tremendous possibilities for all of us.
Great. So I imagine there's quite a bit of planning and prep that takes place before a recording session like this. So maybe we'll start with Dan and then go to Ivan, but could you tell us a bit about the kind of prep work that goes into a recording like we had done this weekend?
Well, in large part, really what I'm doing is I'm moving a studio, in a sense, into the venue. So a lot of it is dependent upon the instrumentation, the orchestration, the kind of music we're doing. And of course, with COVID, we're under all these other restrictions, which necessitates, physically having to arrange things in a way that wouldn't be as conventional as we might assume it to be. So there's a fair bit of planning with regards to that. And then of course, once everything's recorded, it's all brought back to the studio where it's mixed. So there's many different facets and stages that one needs to engage in. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Ivan.
Well, as far as pre-production, it's really just getting a sense from the orchestra how big a production it's going to be, whether it's just a few players or whether it's a whole orchestra out there. I like to know the venue and get a look at the venue in advance so that we know whether there's any additional lighting that has to be brought in. Sort of get a sense from Boyd what the orchestration is going to be like, where everyone's going to be, so we can decide whether we can shoot it with 2 cameras, 3 cameras, 4 cameras, whatever we might need. Yeah, and then just sort of getting a sense of how long each piece is going to be, and then it's really just getting in the room with the orchestra or whatever players might be playing, and then just having a look at it in real life, and then seeing how best to shoot things.
So, what recording techniques and the setup do you prefer for that combination of instruments?
I'm a believer in simplicity. As the bee flies, it's a straight line. Don't overcomplicate it. A lot of folks, I think, tend to, but I kind of subscribe to a very traditional way of recording that's been used for decades and decades and decades. So, adding a little bit of stuff that I've learned over the years that I can apply some new technology to it. But for the most part, I try to keep that as transparent as possible. So really, what we did on the weekend, I was working with 4 microphones. It was very, very stripped down. But even in sitting and listening to it today, as we start, post-producing it, it sounds absolutely wonderful.
Oh, I can't wait. And Ivan, what about you?
Well, for the show that we did on the weekend, I knew there was going to be two performers, and there was not going to be an audience. So without there being an audience, what it allows us to do with the cameras is get into positions that would normally be blocking somebody else's view. So we can stand right in front. We can get right beside the performers. We can get a lot of the angles that audience members don't usually get to see. So we set up 4 cameras for the shoot on the weekend. One was really tight with Victoria. The other one was kind of looking over somebody's shoulder. Another one was right in front, which would be the sort of the audience view. But again, these are all views that you wouldn't normally be able to capture during a live performance. So I think that's one of the advantages of these sort of virtual concerts that we're doing, is that you get to, as an audience member, stand somewhere where you'd never get to stand before, plus hear it in full produced stereo sound as well. So there's a lot of positives that come out of these virtual concerts.
Hi, I'm Kathy Wood, and I am the clarinet half of Vida Nesti Duo. I teach at Brandon University and play with the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra and various chamber groups, and I'm really excited to be here today.
And I'm Victoria Sparks. I'm happy to be joining my musical better half, Kathy Wood. and I teach percussion at the University of Manitoba. I'm glad to be here with you. We have been working together, it's I think 6 or 7 years now, and I think I know that because I looked up the date of one of our first commission, and that was the year after we started working together, and that was 2015, I think. So, so more than 6 years now. For sure. And we met because Kathy and I were working together at Brandon University at the time and getting to know each other, and discovered that our families were both Icelandic. And in that way that Icelanders do in Manitoba, we quickly started comparing relatives in small towns that were connected to our family to find out how far back we were related. It was always an assumption that you will be related at some point. So after that, we thought, well, we better work together because we're obviously cousins. So that's how we got started. At least that's how I remember it.
Actually, a lot of what we play, it is commissions and arrangements. So, and mostly Canadian composers, and actually a lot of Manitoban composers. So that's really exciting. Fiola, she's the first composer that we were talking about. She's Icelandic Canadian. And then I don't know the order, but we've commissioned Kenley Christofferson, who is a Manitoban and also a teacher in is it Winnipeg school system, I think?
Selkirk.
Selkirk, right, sorry, Selkirk, yeah. And we've commissioned Chris Byman. He's also a Winnipegger and a former student, just like he was in Suzu's class, actually, which is really great. Coming home, which is wonderful. And then we've arranged some of Sid Rabinovich's pieces that are originally clarinet and piano, but Tori did a great job making them work on marimba. And that's been a lot of fun too. And we have a lot of other transcriptions that we've done too.
I've always really enjoyed the process of the recording process and being in the studio and collaborating with, because it really is a collaboration with the audio and video engineers. So could you tell us a little bit about that process of working with musicians during a session?
Working with the musicians during a recording, it's first of all, it's fantastic for me because I get to, I'm not a musician, and I get to sit in on these fantastic shows and watch the artists perform at their peak, which is what we're trying to do with these shows anyways, right? Is get their best performances. It's a bit of a balancing act because they want it to be perfect and I want to capture it perfect. And sometimes, what I'm getting, when I think I've got the best shot, it's not necessarily what they think is the best performance. So we'll redo something, which is another wonderful thing about the virtual performances, is that you get to do retakes. You won't get to do that in a live performance. So it's just a matter of working with the performers. I like to sort of act as a bit of a director as well and get them to, here's camera A. So if you're going to be talking to the audience, consider this as the audience camera. Just basically trying to work with them to get the best performances so that they're happy with it as well.
I think to begin with, when you're working with world-class musicians, a lot of your problems evaporate right off the top.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The folks at the MCO have just always been so darn accommodating and easy to work with, and I think really appreciative of all the skill sets that get brought into the production of something, whether you're stage managing, recording, filming, whatever. There's just that great deal of respect, and it goes a long way.
I know when we play on stage, and our particular chamber orchestra audience is fabulous. We just love them because they listen. And I don't know how to say this. It's without sounding sort of mystical, but these are so you can tell where the audience is at with you, and you can tell if they're excited by what's going on.
It's a
just
feeling in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been able to explain it, but it's definitely there.
Yeah.